Good morning, students. I am Prabhakar, your faculty for the subject Social Security Legislation. Students, today we are going to start the last segment of your Social Security Legislation, and that is Employees State Insurance Act 1948. And we are going to study this entire act in a briefly manner because as per the limitations of your syllabus, we do not have to study each and every part of this ESI Act 1948, but the major important provisions which are being given for the study purpose, that I am going to cover up entirely. Okay, so we just start this Employees State Insurance Act 1948. Student, under this act, the benefits which employees are going to get, that benefits are also similar in certain other acts also. As you talk about Maternity Benefit Act 1961, even in that also a maternity benefit is being given, and in Employee State Insurance Act 1948 also cover ups maternity benefit. Then if you talk about compensation related to any employment injury in under ESI, that is also applicable, and through this Employees Compensation Act or Workmen Compensation Act 1923, that also comes in picture. So there are certain similarity as far as the benefits of this act, but applicability matters. Means wherever Maternity Benefit Act 1961 is applicable, then in that prospect ESI Act would not be applicable over there. And if ESI 1948 is applied somewhere in establishment, then in that prospect Maternity Benefit Act 1961's provision would not be applied. So this way it goes on. तो अभी हम लोग स्टूडेंट्स वन बाय वन वी विल ट्राई टू कवर अप सम पार्ट्स ऑफ दिस ESI Act 1948, an act to provide for certain benefits to employees in case of sickness. अगर सिकनेस होती है तो वैसे केस में उनके ट्रीटमेंट के लिए जो बेनिफिट दिया जाता है वो एम्प्लॉयज़ स्टेट इंश्योरेंस एक्ट में आता है. देन मैटरनिटी इज़ देयर एंड एम्प्लॉयमेंट इंजरी ऑल्सो. मीन्स इफ़ यू फेस एनी काइंड ऑफ एक्सीडेंट ड्यूरिंग द कोर्स ऑफ एम्प्लॉयमेंट, इवन इन दैट ऑल्सो you are entitled to get the compensation. So, and to make provisions for certain other matters in relation thereto. And apart from these three major portions related to the benefits being given to the employees, there are certain other benefits also which are provided through this ESI Act 1948, which we will see in later on videos. So we just start where we will start from chapter 1. Chapter 1 talks about short title, extent, commencement and application. Short title, this act may be called the Employees State Insurance Act 1948. इसको जो हम लोग short title में Employees State Insurance Act 1948 बोलते हैं. Then it extends to whole of India. It is applied to होल ऑफ इंडिया. मतलब ये है स्टूडेंट्स कि ये सभी जगहों पे सभी स्टेट्स में जो होगा अप्लाई होगा. देन इट शैल कम इनटू फोर्स ऑन सच such date or dates on as the central government may by notification in the official gazette appoint, and different dates may be appointed for different provision of this act and for different states or for different parts thereof. Means applicability जो है इसकी implementation जो है that depends upon the decision of central government, and once central government publishes the or notifies the date through that official gazette, then in that prospect that applicability of the date would be fixed up. Then it shall apply in the first instance to all factories including factories belonging to the government other than seasonal factories. सीजनल फैक्ट्रीज़ के अलावे जो है ये सारे फैक्ट्रीज़ में जो है नॉर्मल इंस्टेंस में जो है फर्स्ट इंस्टेंस में ये अप्लीकेबल होगा, प्रोवाइडेड दैट नथिंग कंटेन इन दिस सबसेक्शन शैल अप्लाई टू ए फैक्ट्री और एस्टैब्लिशमेंट बिलोंगिंग टू और अंडर द कंट्रोल ऑफ गवर्नमेंट हुज एम्प्लॉयज़ आर अदरवाइज इन रिसिप्ट ऑफ बेनिफिट्स सब्सटैंशियली सिमिलर और सुपीरियर टू द बेनिफिट्स प्रोवाइडेड अंडर दिस एक्ट. सो इट इज़ वेरी ऑब्वियस स्टूडेंट्स कि इफ़ एनी अदर बेनिफिट सिमिलर टू दिस ESI Act or better than to ESI Act is already applied in those establishments, then there is no need to apply this ESI Act 1948. But it depends upon the decision of appropriate government whether appropriate government gets satisfied that apart from this ESI Act there are certain other provisions which are giving more benefits to the employees in the concern of the matters related to ESI Act. Then in that prospect establishment can be exempted by the appropriate government to implement this ESI Act 1948. Then The appropriate government may in consultation with the corporation, and whereas the appropriate government is a state government with the approval of the central government after giving 1 month's notice of its intentions of so doing by notification in the official gazette, extend the provisions of this act or any of them to any other establishment or class of establishment, industrial, commercial, agriculture or otherwise. Here it is clearly mentioned that if appropriate government, whether it is central government or state government, realizes that the implementation of this act is necessary for a certain kind of establishment, then just by giving 1 month prior notice to that establishment, they can implement ESI Act 1948 over there. So this power has been given to the appropriate government in this prospect. Then provided that where the provisions of this act have been brought into force in any part of the state, the said provisions shall stand extended to any such establishment or class of establishment within that part if the provisions have already been extended to similar establishment or class of establishment in another part of the state. मतलब यहाँ पे ये बताया गया है कि अगर एक एस्टेब्लिशमेंट कई स्टेट्स में है और एक स्टेट में ये अप्लीकेबल है तो उसके वो ऑटोमेटिक जो है वो दूसरे पार्ट्स में भी वो ESI एक्ट वहाँ पे अप्लीकेबल हो जाएगा. सो स्टूडेंट, दिस वे वी हैव कवर्ड अप सेक्शन 1. देन सेक्शन 2 talks about definitions. Many a time we have already discussed about appropriate government. Appropriate government may be central government or state government, that we have already seen in many of our previous sessions. Confinement means labor resulting in the issue of a living child or labor after 26 weeks of pregnancy resulting in the issue of a child whether alive or dead. Confinement का मतलब है यहाँ पे 26 weeks की प्रेगनेंसी की बात करी गई है. तो ये जो है जो अमेंडमेंट आया 2017 के मैटरनिटी बेनिफिट एक्ट 1961 में, उसी प्रोस्पेक्ट में जो 12 weeks के जो मैटरनिटी बेनिफिट के जो बेनिफिट्स थे उसको यहाँ पे 26 weeks जो उसमें भी बढ़ाया गया और यहाँ भी उसी 26 weeks को कंसीडर किया गया है. देन कंट्रीब्यूशन, कॉर्पोरेशन, डिपेंडेंट इज ऑलरेडी बीइंग डिस्कस्ड इवन इन प्रीवियस एक्ट्स ऑल्सो. सो वी विल हैव टू जस्ट गो थ्रू who are called dependent means who are going to claim the compensations if any employee gets deceased. then in that prospect जो अगर employee की death हो जाती है तो वैसे केस में claims में कौन जाएगा, कौन उसके लिए entitled होगा, उसको dependent के prospect में बताया गया है. So employment injury that we have already discussed in previous act, जो उसमें हमने जो है employment in the course of employment जो है कैसे इंजरीज को कंसीडर किया जाएगा ये हमने ऑलरेडी डिस्कस किया हुआ है एम्प्लॉयज़ कॉम्पनसेशन एक्ट 1923 में. और यहाँ पे उसी एम्प्लॉयमेंट इंजरी मीन्स ए पर्सनल इंजरी टू एन एम्प्लॉय कॉज्ड बाय एक्सीडेंट और एन ऑक्यूपेशनल डिजीज arising out of and in the course of his employment, being an insurable employment whether the accident occurs or the occupational disease is contracted within or outside the territorial limits of India. तो यहाँ पे एम्प्लॉयमेंट इंजरी को उसी प्रोस्पेक्ट में डिफाइन किया गया. देन एम्प्लॉय, एम्प्लॉयर एंड एम्प्लॉयर, exempted employees, family, factory, many other things have been defined over here through the definition, and many of the definitions have already been elaborated in my previous session. If you talk about in terms of disablement, whether it is temporary partial disablement or permanent partial disablement or disablement means temporary disablement or partial disablement. Then here it has been defined wage period also. Then registrations of factories and establishments. Every factory or establishment to which this act applies shall be registered within such time and in such manner as may be specified the regulations made in this behalf. So students, through this section 1 and section 2 we have tried to understand the basics of ESI Act 1948. In my next video we will try to start with the Corporation Standing Committee and Medical Benefits Council and their powers. Thank you students.